A billionaire CEO watched his paralyzed daughter blow out 7 candles alone in a mansion decorated for 50 children. 0 guests arrived. But when a homeless boy knocked on the door asking to join the party, everything changed. What this boy knew would not only save the CEO's daughter, it would transform a billion-dollar pharmaceutical empire and challenge everything society believes about wealth, disability, and what it means to truly succeed. This is a story about friendship that broke every social barrier, about kindness that became the most profitable business strategy, and about how a child's wisdom exposed the emptiness behind corporate America's wealthiest boardrooms. But before we dive in, let me set the scene for you. Marcus Bellridge stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse office, overlooking the city skyline. As CEO of Bellridge Pharmaceuticals, he commanded a company worth $3 billion. His signature was on medications that reached 42 countries. His name appeared on Forbes lists, charity galas, and business school case studies. But none of that mattered today. Today was Sophia's 7th birthday. Marcus left his office early, something he never did, and drove himself home instead of using his usual driver. The 30-minute drive to his estate in Greenfield Hills felt like hours. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The accident happened 2 years ago, a rainy November evening. His wife, Catherine, was driving Sophia home from ballet practice. A drunk driver ran a red light at 60 miles per hour. Catherine died instantly. Sophia survived, but the spinal injury left her paralyzed from the waist down. Marcus spent 18 months in a fog of grief and guilt. He threw himself into work, donated millions to spinal injury research, and hired the best physical therapists money could buy. But he couldn't buy back his wife. And he couldn't buy his daughter the one thing she wanted most: friends. As Marcus pulled through the iron gates of his estate, he saw the spectacle his household staff had created. The front lawn looked like a carnival. There were 3 bounce houses, wheelchair accessible of course. A professional face painter stood ready by her station. A magician practiced card tricks near the fountain. Tables overflowed with pizza, chicken wings, fresh fruit, and a 3-tier princess cake decorated with edible glitter. 50 invitations had been sent to Sophia's former classmates at Westbrook Academy. Marcus had personally called several parents to confirm. After the accident, he'd withdrawn Sophia from school to focus on her therapy and recovery. Now, her tutors handled her education at home. But for her birthday, he wanted to give her what she missed most: the laughter and chaos of children being children. Inside the house, Marcus found Sophia in her wheelchair by the window, wearing a purple dress with sparkles that caught the afternoon light. Her long brown hair was styled in careful curls. She'd insisted on wearing the crystal tiara her mother bought her 3 years ago. "Hey, birthday girl," Marcus said, kneeling beside her chair. "You look like an actual princess." Sophia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Do you think anyone will come, Daddy?" "Of course they will," Marcus said, though doubt gnawed at his stomach. "The party doesn't start for another hour. You know how kids are, they'll probably all show up fashionably late." Sophia nodded, but her small hands fidgeted with the hem of her dress. An hour later, the magician stood awkwardly shuffling cards with no audience. The face painter packed up her supplies. Not a single child had arrived. Marcus made phone calls. The first 3 went to voicemail. The 4th parent answered. "Oh, Marcus, I'm so sorry," Mrs. Patterson said, her voice dripping with forced sympathy. "Brandon came down with a stomach bug this morning. Terrible timing." "I understand," Marcus replied, though he heard children laughing in the background of her call. The 5th parent was more honest. "Look, Marcus, I don't know how to say this delicately. The other parents, they're uncomfortable. They don't know how to explain Sophia's condition to their kids. Wheelchairs, paralysis. It's complicated for 7-year-olds to understand. I'm sure you get it." Marcus ended the call without responding. By 4 o'clock, the truth was undeniable. No one was coming. Sophia sat silently at the head of an empty table, staring at her untouched cake. Marcus had dismissed most of the staff, keeping only Maria, their longtime housekeeper, who stood in the corner dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Should I bring out the cake, Mr. Bellridge?" Maria asked softly. Marcus nodded. What else could they do? Maria returned with the 3-tier princess cake, candles already lit. She and Marcus sang "Happy Birthday" in the enormous echoing dining room. Their voices sounded small and hollow. Sophia closed her eyes and blew out the candles. "What did you wish for?" Marcus asked. "I wished Mom was here," Sophia whispered. "She would have known how to make them come." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. Then came a knock at the door. Maria glanced at Marcus with surprise. He nodded, and she walked toward the entrance. Through the dining room doorway, Marcus heard Maria open the front door. Then he heard a young voice, slightly breathless. "Hi. Is this where the birthday party is?" Marcus stood and walked to the foyer. At his front door stood a boy around Sophia's age, maybe slightly older. He wore jeans with patched knees, a faded Superman t-shirt that was 2 sizes too small, and sneakers held together with duct tape. His dark hair was neatly combed but needed a trim. In his hands, he clutched a small package wrapped in newspaper comics. "I'm sorry, young man," Maria said gently. "This is a private residence." "I know," the boy said quickly. "I saw all the decorations from the bus stop. And I heard someone say there was a birthday party for a girl who uses a wheelchair. I thought, maybe she could use a friend." Before we continue with what happened next, if you're enjoying this story of unexpected friendship and the power of genuine kindness, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share incredible true stories like this every week. Stories that remind us what really matters in life. Now, let's see how this mysterious boy's arrival would change everything. Marcus studied the boy standing at his doorstep. Every instinct told him this was irregular, a random child showing up uninvited to a private party. But something in the boy's earnest expression stopped him from sending him away. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. "Diego Santos, sir." The boy stood straighter, as if addressing someone important. "I live at Riverside Apartments." He pointed east, toward the low-income housing complex visible about half a mile away. "I was waiting for the bus after my shift at Mr. Chen's grocery store when I saw all the balloons and the bounce houses. Then I heard Mrs. Patterson at the bus stop telling another mom that nobody was going to some disabled girls' party because it would be too uncomfortable." Marcus felt anger flash through him. So the parents had been talking about it publicly. "That made me mad," Diego continued. "My abuela, my grandmother, she always says that being poor is hard, but being lonely is harder. And she says real friendship doesn't care about what you have or don't have. So I thought, maybe this girl needs a friend today. I know I'm not invited, but..." He held up the newspaper-wrapped package. "I brought a present. It's not much, but it's something." Maria looked at Marcus, her expression soft with compassion. Marcus made a decision. "Come in, Diego." The boy's face lit up like Christmas morning. Marcus led Diego through the marble foyer, past the crystal chandelier, into the dining room where Sophia still sat at the empty table. She looked up when they entered, her expression shifting from sadness to confusion. "Sophia," Marcus said gently, "this is Diego. He heard it was your birthday and wanted to join the party. Is that okay with you?" Sophia blinked several times, studying the boy in the patched jeans and too small shirt. For a moment, Marcus worried she might feel insulted, a pity guest sent by her father. Then Sophia smiled. A real smile. "You came to my party?" Diego walked closer, completely unfazed by the wheelchair. "Yeah. Happy birthday. How old are you turning?" 7, Sophia said. "No way, I just turned 8 last month." Diego set the newspaper-wrapped present on the table. "Sorry about the wrapping. We ran out of the fancy paper." Sophia reached for the package with careful hands. She unwrapped it slowly, revealing a small wooden box. Inside was a collection of smooth river stones, each one painted with colorful designs. Stars, hearts, flowers, and one with a Superman logo. I painted them myself, Diego said, a hint of nervousness creeping into his voice. My abuela taught me. She says when you're feeling sad, you can hold the stones and remember that someone painted each one thinking about you. So you know you're not alone. Sophia picked up the Superman stone, turning it over in her palm. Her eyes filled with tears. I love Superman. Me too. Diego's whole face brightened. He's the best because he helps people even when it's hard. Even when people don't understand him. Do you want some cake? Sophia asked suddenly. Are you kidding? That cake looks amazing. Maria, who'd been watching from the doorway, quickly moved to cut slices. Within minutes, the two children were eating cake, and Diego was telling an animated story about the time he tried to fly off a park bench with a towel cape and broke his arm. Sophia laughed. Actually laughed. The sound filled the room like music Marcus hadn't heard in 2 years. Want to see my room? Sophia asked when they finished eating. I have almost every Superman comic ever made. Seriously? That's so cool. Marcus helped lift Sophia's wheelchair up the stairs, something his architect had promised to fix with a proper lift system next month, while Diego carried the stack of comic books Sophia pointed out. In Sophia's room, the two children spread comics across the floor. Diego lay on his stomach, flipping through pages, while Sophia wheeled herself between different issues, explaining the storylines with expertise. In this one, Superman loses his powers, Sophia said, holding up a worn copy. Everyone thinks he's useless now, but he still tries to save people anyway. My mom used to say that's what makes him a real hero. Not his powers, but his choice to help. Diego looked up from his comic. Your mom sounds really smart. Is she here? Sophia's expression shifted. She died. In the same car accident that hurt my legs. Marcus, standing in the doorway, held his breath. Diego was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, my parents died too. When I was 5. There was a fire in our old apartment building. My abuela saved me, but they didn't make it out. Sophia wheeled closer. Does it ever stop hurting? My abuela says it hurts differently over time. Like, it's always there but you learn to carry it better. And she says the people we love never really leave us, they live in here. Diego tapped his chest. In the things they taught us and the way they loved us. Sophia reached out and took Diego's hand. Two children who understood loss in a way most 7- and 8-year-olds shouldn't have to. They sat like that for a moment. Then Diego said, Hey, want to see something cool? He pulled a small harmonica from his pocket. Battered and scratched but clearly treasured. My grandpa gave this to me before he died. He taught me one song. Diego played a simple, sweet melody that filled the room with an aching beauty. When he finished, Sophia clapped. That was beautiful. Can you teach me? Sure. It's not hard once you know where to blow and where to breathe in. Marcus watched them for another 20 minutes. Teaching, laughing, arguing playfully about whether Superman or Batman was the better hero, sharing stories about school and work and dreams. Finally, Marcus cleared his throat. Diego, it's getting late. Do you need a ride home? Diego checked a plastic digital watch on his wrist, the kind you get from a cereal box promotion. Oh no. My abuela's going to worry. I told her I'd be home by 5. I'll drive you, Marcus said. You don't have to, sir. I can take the bus. I insist. Sophia wheeled to the doorway. Can Diego come back? Please. Diego looked at Marcus hopefully. Of course, Marcus found himself saying. You're welcome here any time, Diego. In the car, Marcus's BMW that cost more than most people's houses, Diego sat quietly, looking out the window. Marcus tried to remember the last time he'd driven to Riverside Apartments. Never, probably. Thank you for coming today, Marcus said. You gave Sophia something I couldn't buy her. Diego turned from the window. She's really nice. And brave. I think using a wheelchair would be scary, but she acts like it's no big deal. It is scary, Marcus admitted. Every day. But she's learning to be strong. My abuela says being strong isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. Diego paused. Mr. Bellridge, can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't any of Sophia's other friends come to her party? Marcus gripped the steering wheel. How do you explain prejudice and discomfort to an 8-year-old who just demonstrated more emotional courage than most adults? People are sometimes afraid of things they don't understand, Marcus said carefully. Wheelchairs, disabilities, they make some people uncomfortable because they don't know how to act or what to say. Diego frowned. That's dumb. She's still the same person. She just sits down while she moves around. What's scary about that? You're absolutely right. It is dumb. They pulled into the parking lot of Riverside Apartments, a rundown complex with peeling paint, broken playground equipment, and laundry hanging from balconies. Marcus had donated to homeless shelters, funded scholarship programs, and written checks to poverty organizations. But he'd never actually been here, where the people he claimed to help actually lived. This is me, Building C, 3rd floor, Diego said, pointing. Thank you for the ride, Mr. Bellridge. And thank you for letting me stay at the party. Diego, Marcus called as the boy reached for the door handle. How would you like to come to our house next Saturday? You and Sophia could spend the afternoon together. Diego's face exploded with joy. Really? That would be awesome. Bring your grandmother too. I'd like to meet her. Okay. She'll probably bring food. She always brings food everywhere. Says you can't trust people who show up to places empty-handed. Marcus smiled. That sounds perfect. He watched Diego sprint across the parking lot and disappear into the building, taking stairs 2 at a time. Then Marcus sat in his idling BMW, looking at the apartment complex with new eyes. A boy who worked after school, lived in poverty, and had lost both parents still found time to show up for a stranger's birthday party with a handmade gift and genuine kindness. What excuse did those Westbrook Academy parents have? If this story is touching your heart, do me a favor. Drop a comment below telling us about a time when someone showed you unexpected kindness. Let's spread some positivity in the comments. And don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying it so far. Saturday came faster than Marcus expected. He found himself actually looking forward to the weekend, something that hadn't happened since Catherine's death. Sophia had talked about nothing but Diego all week. She'd organized her comic books by storyline, prepared a list of movies they could watch, and asked Maria to make her famous chocolate chip cookies. At 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Sophia practically flew to the door in her wheelchair, with Marcus following behind. Diego stood on the doorstep wearing the same jeans and Superman shirt, but freshly washed. Beside him stood an elderly woman with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a simple floral dress and carrying 2 foil-covered dishes. Mr. Bellridge, this is my abuela, Rosa Santos, Diego said proudly. Rosa extended her hand with dignified warmth. Thank you for inviting us into your home, Mr. Bellridge. I brought arroz con pollo and platanos maduros. Diego told me about the party, and I wanted to properly thank you for your kindness to my grandson. Marcus shook her hand, struck by the quiet strength in her grip. Please come in. And thank you, you didn't need to bring anything. My mother would rise from her grave to haunt me if I showed up empty-handed, Rosa said with a gentle smile. While Sophia and Diego disappeared upstairs, Marcus led Rosa to the kitchen where Maria was preparing coffee. The 2 women greeted each other in rapid Spanish, and within minutes they were laughing like old friends. Your home is beautiful, Rosa said, accepting a cup of coffee, but very quiet for such a big space. Marcus looked around the kitchen. Granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, a breakfast nook with a view of the gardens. It's just the 2 of us now. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Rosa said softly. After my son and daughter-in-law passed, the apartment felt too big even though it's tiny. The silence is louder than any noise. They sat at the breakfast nook, and for the first time in 2 years, Marcus found himself really talking to someone. Not business small talk. Not grief counselor sessions. Real conversation. Rosa told him about raising Diego alone on her housekeeping income, about teaching him to find dignity and honest work, about her late husband Eduardo, who'd been a pharmaceutical researcher in Mexico before they immigrated. Eduardo dedicated his life to creating affordable medicines, Rosa said, her eyes distant with memory. He believed healthcare was a right, not a privilege. He worked for years on treatments for poor children with heart conditions. Children whose families could never afford the expensive drugs from big companies. Marcus leaned forward. What happened to his research? He died before finishing it. Cancer, of all things. Rosa's voice carried bitter irony. A man who spent his life creating medicine couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved him. He left behind boxes of research papers, notebooks, formulas. Diego and I keep them in our apartment, but I don't understand the science. Eduardo always said his work would help thousands of children someday. I just wish he'd lived to see it. Something stirred in Marcus's chest. Curiosity, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred purpose lost to tragedy. Upstairs, they could hear Sophia and Diego's laughter echoing through the halls. Your grandson gave Sophia something precious, Marcus said. He gave her hope that real friendship still exists. Rosa smiled. Diego has always had a gift for seeing people's hearts instead of their circumstances. After his parents died, he struggled with anger. But slowly, he learned that helping others healed his own pain. She paused, studying Marcus carefully. May I speak honestly, Mr. Bellridge? Please. Diego told me about the birthday party. About the other children who didn't come. Rosa's voice remained gentle but firm. I see that same loneliness in your eyes that I hear in Sophia's voice. You've built walls around your grief, thinking you're protecting your daughter. But children need to see their parents grieve, struggle, and heal. It teaches them they can do the same. Marcus felt exposed, as if this woman he'd just met could see straight through him. I don't know how to do this without her, Marcus admitted, surprising himself. Catherine was the heart of our family. I was always the one working late, making deals, building the company. She made our house a home. Now I'm trying to be both parents, and I'm failing at everything. You're not failing, Rosa said firmly. You're learning. That's different. And you're not alone, you just haven't let anyone close enough to help carry the weight. Before Marcus could respond, Diego and Sophia burst into the kitchen. Dad, Diego taught me how to play the harmonica. Sophia held up Diego's battered instrument. Listen. She produced a squeaky but recognizable melody. Diego beamed with pride. She's a natural. They spent the afternoon together, eating Rosa's cooking, which Maria declared was the best arroz con pollo she'd ever tasted, playing board games, and watching Superman movies in the home theater. Rosa and Maria chatted in the kitchen while Marcus found himself actually relaxing, listening to the children's laughter. As evening approached and the Santos family prepared to leave, Diego pulled Marcus aside. Mr. Bellridge, can I tell you something? Of course. The kids at my school, they make fun of me sometimes. For my clothes, for working at the grocery store, for living at Riverside. Diego's voice remained steady, matter of fact. But my abuela taught me that real success isn't about money or what other people think. It's about how you make people feel. It's about whether you leave people better than you found them. The simple wisdom from an 8-year-old hit Marcus harder than any business advice from his Harvard-educated board members. She sounds very wise, Marcus said. She is. She also says that being a leader means taking care of people, not just telling them what to do. That's why Superman is the best hero. He has all this power, but he uses it to help people, especially people nobody else cares about. Marcus watched Diego rejoin his grandmother, and something fundamental shifted inside him. Monday morning arrived with chaos. Marcus walked into Bellridge Pharmaceuticals to find his executive team in emergency session. Jennifer Park, his chief financial officer, met him at the elevator with a tablet showing plummeting stock prices. The FDA rejected our application for Cardiotech 9, Jennifer said, her voice tight with stress. They want additional trials. 2 more years of testing minimum. The market's reacting badly. In the boardroom, 12 board members sat around the mahogany table, their expressions grim. "Gentlemen, ladies," Marcus said, taking his seat at the head of the table. Richard Hartley, the board chairman and largest shareholder, didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Marcus, we need decisive action. The Cardiotech 9 rejection is a catastrophe. We've invested $800 million in development. The stock is down 18%. We need to cut costs immediately." "I'm listening," Marcus said carefully. "We propose reducing R&D budget by 40%, eliminating 300 research positions, and shifting focus to proven, profitable drug lines," said Patricia Chen, another major shareholder. "We also recommend increasing prices on our existing cardiac medications to offset the loss." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "You want to fire 300 scientists and researchers, people who've dedicated their careers to developing life-saving medications, because one drug hit a regulatory delay?" "It's not personal, Marcus. It's business," Richard said coldly. "Our responsibility is to shareholders, not employees. And raising prices on existing drugs is standard practice when development costs rise. Those existing drugs include medications that heart patients need to survive," Marcus countered. "People like," he stopped himself, thinking of Rosa's story about her husband Eduardo. "Like whom?" Patricia leaned forward. "Marcus, I understand you've been through personal tragedy. We all sympathize. But we can't run a pharmaceutical company on sympathy. We need profit. We need shareholder value." Marcus looked around the table at faces he'd known for years. Successful, intelligent people who'd helped build Bellridge Pharmaceuticals into a powerhouse. People who saw medications as products, patients as consumers, and healing as a profit margin. He thought about Diego's words. Real success is about how you make people feel. About leaving people better than you found them. "No," Marcus said quietly. "Excuse me." Richard blinked. "No. We're not firing 300 researchers. We're not raising prices on cardiac medications. In fact, I want to explore reducing prices and expanding access." The room erupted. "Have you lost your mind?" Patricia stood up. "Reducing prices? We're in a financial crisis." "We're in a financial setback," Marcus corrected. "Not a crisis. This company generates $2 billion in annual revenue. We can absorb this setback without destroying lives and pricing desperate patients out of life-saving treatments." "The shareholders will revolt," Richard warned. "Then let them. I'm proposing we refocus our mission on what pharmaceutical companies should do. Heal people. Not maximize profits at the expense of patients who can't afford to live." "This is insanity," Jennifer said. "Marcus, think about what you're saying." "I am thinking. Probably more clearly than I have in years." Marcus stood. "Schedule another board meeting for next week. I'll present a full proposal for a new direction. One that proves profitability and ethics aren't mutually exclusive." He walked out of the boardroom to stunned silence. "What do you think Marcus should do? Should he prioritize profits like the board wants, or stand by his principles even if it costs him everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you're Team Marcus, smash that like button right now." The backlash was immediate and brutal. By Tuesday morning, financial news networks were running segments questioning Marcus's leadership. "Bellridge CEO prioritizes charity over shareholders," read one headline. "Is Marcus Bellridge mentally fit to lead?" asked another. His phone buzzed constantly with angry calls from investors. His email inbox overflowed with demands for his resignation. 2 board members scheduled a private meeting to discuss concerns about his judgment. But Marcus pushed forward. He spent the week working 18-hour days, building a comprehensive proposal for ethical pharmaceutical practices that could maintain profitability. He consulted with economists, medical ethicists, and progressive healthcare policy experts. On Wednesday evening, as Marcus worked late in his home office, Maria knocked on the door. "Mr. Bellridge, there's a problem. It's about Miss Sophia." Marcus's heart jumped. "What happened?" "She's in her room very upset. Rosa Santos called. Diego is in the hospital." Marcus took the stairs 2 at a time. He found Sophia in her wheelchair by the window, tears streaming down her face, clutching the Superman stone Diego had painted for her. "Daddy, we have to help him," Sophia sobbed. "Diego's abuela had a heart attack. She's at County General and Diego's all alone." Marcus grabbed his phone, already dialing. "I'm calling the hospital now." 20 minutes later, Marcus and Sophia arrived at County General Hospital, a stark contrast to the private medical facilities where Sophia received her therapy. The waiting room was crowded, fluorescent lights flickered, and the smell of industrial cleaner mixed with human desperation. They found Diego in a corner, still wearing his grocery store uniform, his face pale and streaked with tears. When he saw them, he ran to Sophia's wheelchair and buried his face against her shoulder. She collapsed during dinner. Diego choked out. "The ambulance took forever to come. They said it's her heart. They said she needs surgery and medication, but..." His voice broke. "We don't have insurance. The doctor said the medication costs $32,000 a year. We can't afford that." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What medication?" "Cardiomax, 7. Diego whispered. "The doctor said it's the only thing that can keep her stable enough for surgery." Cardiomax, 7. Manufactured by Bellridge Pharmaceuticals, a drug Marcus's own company produced for approximately $600 per annual supply but sold for $32,000. The irony hit him like a physical blow. Marcus found the attending physician, a tired-looking woman in her 50s reviewing charts at the nurse's station. "Dr. Patel, I'm Marcus Bellridge. I'm here about Rosa Santos." Dr. Patel looked up, recognition flickering in her eyes. "The pharmaceutical CEO?" "Yes. What's her condition?" "Severe heart failure. She needs a coronary bypass, but she's not stable enough for surgery. Cardiomax, 7 would stabilize her, but..." Dr. Patel's expression hardened. "Your company charges more for that medication than she earns in a year as a housekeeper. So we'll do our best with less effective alternatives and hope she survives long enough for the free clinic to find a solution." The accusation in her voice was clear. "She'll have the Cardiomax 7, Marcus said firmly. "I'll personally insure it. And the surgery, I'll cover all costs." Dr. Patel studied him carefully. "That's generous. But what about the hundreds of other Rosa Santos who come through these doors? The ones who don't happen to be friends with the CEO?" The question haunted Marcus as he returned to Diego and Sophia. "Your grandmother is going to get the medication she needs," Marcus told Diego. "And the surgery. I promise." Diego looked up with hope mixed with confusion. "But the doctor said it's too expensive." "Don't worry about that. Just focus on being strong for your abuela." They stayed at the hospital until midnight, when a nurse finally told them Rosa was stable and resting. Marcus arranged for a private room to be added to her insurance coverage and left his personal number with the nursing staff. As Marcus drove Sophia home, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Daddy, if we can afford to give Diego's abuela that medicine, why can't other people afford it? Doesn't everyone's abuela deserve to live?" Out of the mouths of children. "You're absolutely right, sweetheart. Everyone's grandmother deserves to live. The system is broken, and I'm part of the problem." "So fix it," Sophia said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Thursday morning, Marcus called an emergency meeting with his top researchers. He needed to understand exactly what it cost to produce Cardiomax, 7 and similar medications. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, his head of R&D, pulled up the data. Production cost per patient annually for Cardiomax, 7 is approximately $650. We charge $32,000. That's a 4,900% markup. Why so high? Development costs, regulatory compliance, shareholder expectations, market rates, Sarah listed mechanically. Then she paused. "But honestly, Marcus? Because we can. Because people will pay anything to stay alive. Because insurance companies negotiate down from our inflated prices, so we inflate them higher. It's an ugly system." "What if we changed it?" Marcus asked. "What if we sold at, say, a 20% markup? $1,300 per patient. Still profitable but accessible. Sarah's eyes widened. The board would never approve it. You'd be cutting revenue by 95% on one of our top-selling drugs. Let me worry about the board. That afternoon, Diego visited after school, splitting his time between visiting his grandmother and keeping Sophia company. Marcus found them in the hospital cafeteria, sharing a plate of fries. "Mr. Bellridge, can I ask you something?" Diego said, his voice serious beyond his years. "Anything. Why do medicines cost so much? My abuela worked her whole life. She paid taxes, helped people, did everything right. But one heart attack, and suddenly we're supposed to come up with $32,000 or she dies. How is that fair?" Marcus sat down across from them. "It's not fair. It's a broken system that values profit over people." "But you run one of the companies," Diego said, not accusingly but genuinely confused. "Can't you change it?" "I'm trying to. But it's complicated. There are shareholders, board members, investors. People who expect the company to make as much money as possible." Diego frowned. "My grandpa Eduardo, the one who was a researcher, he used to tell my dad that medicine should be about healing, not business. He said the best leaders are the ones who do what's right even when it's hard. Even when other people disagree." "Your grandfather sounds like he was a remarkable man." "He was." Diego pulled out a folded, worn photograph from his pocket. It showed a kind-faced man in a lab coat, standing beside shelves of research materials. "This is the only picture I have of him. My abuela says I have his eyes and his heart for helping people." Marcus studied the photograph. "Diego, you mentioned your grandfather did research on heart medications for poor children. Do you know what happened to his work? It's all in boxes in our apartment. My abuela keeps them in the closet. She says they're too important to throw away but too complicated for her to understand. She kept hoping some researcher would want to see them someday, but—" Diego shrugged. Nobody ever cared about work from a Mexican immigrant who never finished publishing his studies. Marcus felt electricity run through him. "Diego, would your grandmother let me look at those research papers?" "Why?" "Because maybe your grandfather's work could help us change things. Could help make medicine affordable for people like your abuela." Diego's face lit up. "Really? You'd look at his research?" "I'd be honored to." Friday evening, after Rosa was stable enough for visitors, Marcus visited her hospital room. She looked frail against the white sheets, connected to monitors and IVs, but her eyes still held that quiet strength. "Mrs. Santos, I owe you an apology," Marcus said, sitting beside her bed. "For what?" Rosa's voice was weak but clear. "For being part of a system that almost killed you. The medication's saving your life right now. My company charges more for it than you earn in a year, even though it costs us less than a week of your salary to produce." Rosa was quiet for a moment. "And what will you do about it?" "I'm going to try to change things. But I need your help. Diego mentioned your husband's research on affordable cardiac treatments. Would you allow me to review his work?" Tears filled Rosa's eyes. Eduardo spent 15 years developing treatments for children whose families couldn't afford expensive drugs. He believed medicine should serve humanity, not profit. He died believing his work was wasted. "It wasn't wasted," Marcus said firmly. "If his research is what I think it is, it could revolutionize how we approach pharmaceutical pricing. It could save thousands of lives." "Then take it," Rosa said. "Take all of it." Eduardo would want his work to finally help the people he dedicated his life to serving. This story is about to take an incredible turn. But before we get there, let me know in the comments. Have you or someone you love ever struggled to afford necessary medication? Your stories matter. And if this video is opening your eyes to the healthcare crisis, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Saturday morning, Diego and Sophia helped Marcus carry 3 large boxes from Rosa's apartment to his car. Inside were 15 years of Dr. Eduardo Santos's research. Notebooks filled with formulas, clinical trial proposals, cost efficiency studies, and treatment protocols for pediatric cardiac conditions. Marcus spent the entire weekend reviewing the material with Dr. Sarah Mitchell. What they discovered was groundbreaking. Dr. Santos had developed a modified synthesis process for cardiac medications that reduced production costs by 70% while maintaining efficacy. His research included comprehensive data on treatment outcomes from a small clinic in Mexico where he'd tested his protocols on over 200 children, all successfully. "This is revolutionary," Sarah said, her hands trembling as she flipped through pages. "If we implement his methods, we could produce CardioMax, 7 and similar drugs at a fraction of current costs. We could sell them affordably and still maintain reasonable profit margins." Why didn't anyone in the industry pursue this? Marcus asked. Sarah looked at him with sad knowing. Because there was no profit incentive. Dr. Santos was trying to make medicine affordable. The industry wants medicine profitable. Those goals rarely align. Monday morning, Marcus called the emergency board meeting he'd promised. The conference room was packed, not just with board members, but with several major shareholders who'd flown in specifically to confront him. The tension was palpable. Richard Hartley opened with hostility. "Marcus, we're here to discuss your recent decisions, which frankly have been erratic and concerning. Providing free medication, rejecting cost-cutting measures, and now we hear you're proposing to slash drug prices? You're jeopardizing this entire company." "I'm not jeopardizing it. I'm transforming it," Marcus said calmly. He activated the presentation screen. "Gentlemen, ladies, I want to introduce you to the work of Dr. Eduardo Santos." For the next 30 minutes, Marcus presented Dr. Santos's research, the potential cost savings, and a comprehensive business plan showing how Bellridge Pharmaceuticals could reduce prices by 60% while still maintaining 30% profit margins, lower than their current margins but still substantial. "You're proposing we voluntarily cut our revenues?" Patricia Chin looked incredulous. "I'm proposing we expand our market," Marcus countered. "Right now, we sell CardioMax, 7 to 200,000 patients annually at $32,000 each. That's $6.4 billion in revenue. If we drop the price to $12,000, we could reach 800,000 patients. People who currently can't afford it or whose insurance won't cover it. That's $9.6 billion in revenue. We make more money by being ethical." The room went silent as board members processed the math. "But that's not all," Marcus continued. "By pioneering affordable pharmaceutical practices, we position ourselves as industry leaders in ethical healthcare. The PR value alone is incalculable. We attract top talent who want to work for a company that actually heals people. We build customer loyalty that no marketing campaign can buy." "This is insane," Richard muttered, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stepped forward. "I've reviewed Dr. Santos's research thoroughly. It's sound. It's replicable. And it's exactly what this industry needs. I believe in this direction so strongly that I'll stake my reputation on it." "As will I," said another voice. Everyone turned to see Dr. James Chen, Bellridge's chief medical officer, standing. "I became a doctor to heal people. I joined this company because I believed we could make a difference. But somewhere along the way, we forgot our mission. Marcus is offering us a chance to remember it." One by one, other voices joined in. Junior board members Marcus had mentored. Scientists who'd felt increasingly uncomfortable with pricing practices. Even Jennifer Park, the CFO, finally spoke. "The numbers work," she admitted. "It's risky, but it's sound. And honestly, I'm tired of defending pricing that I know is indefensible." Richard Hartley looked around the room, seeing his support crumbling. Finally, he sighed. "I want guaranteed profit margins in writing. I want quarterly reviews. And I want proof this works before we roll it out company-wide." "Done," Marcus said. "Then I'll support it. Conditionally." The vote was 11-1 in favor. Marcus had won. But the real victory came 3 weeks later. Rosa Santos was released from the hospital, fully recovered from her bypass surgery. Marcus arranged a small celebration at his home. Nothing fancy, just the two families, Maria and Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who'd become invested in honoring Dr. Santos's legacy. Diego burst through the door with his grandmother. both of them beaming. Rosa walked slowly but steadily, her color returned, her eyes bright. "You look wonderful, Mrs. Santos," Marcus said, embracing her carefully. "I feel like I've been given a second life," Rosa said. "And I understand you're the reason why. Your husband is the reason. His research is going to save thousands of lives." They gathered in the dining room, where Maria and Rosa had collaborated on a feast that blended their culinary traditions. As they ate, Diego pulled out a folded piece of paper from his backpack. "Mr. Bellridge, I got my report card today. Want to see?" Marcus took the paper. Straight A's across every subject, with a teacher's note at the bottom. Diego is a natural leader who consistently demonstrates compassion and wisdom beyond his years. "I'm very proud of you," Marcus said. "My abuela says education is important, but kindness is more important. She says you can have all the degrees in the world and still fail at being human." Diego paused, his expression turning serious. "Mr. Bellridge, can I tell you what I think the most important medicine is?" "What's that?" "Kindness. My abuela almost died, and the medicine you make saved her body. But you know what saved her heart? You caring enough to help. That's the medicine people really need, knowing someone cares whether they live or die." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. This 8-year-old boy, who had every reason to be bitter about poverty and loss, instead radiated wisdom and grace. Sophia wheeled over and took Diego's hand. "You saved me too. Before you came to my party, I thought nobody would ever want to be my friend because of my wheelchair. You taught me that real friends see who you are, not what you can or can't do." Diego squeezed her hand. "You taught me that being rich or poor doesn't matter. What matters is how you treat people." Marcus looked around the table, at his daughter laughing with genuine joy, at Rosa alive and healthy, at Diego embodying everything good about humanity, at his staff and colleagues who'd chosen principle over profit. He thought about the board meeting, about the transformation beginning at Bellridge Pharmaceuticals, about Dr. Santos's research that would now reach the world. All of it started because a poor boy showed up uninvited to a birthday party with a handmade gift and an open heart. "I want to propose something," Marcus said, raising his glass of sparkling cider. "Rosa, I'd like to establish the Eduardo Santos Foundation for Affordable Medicine Research, funded by Bellridge Pharmaceuticals. Diego, when you're old enough, if you're interested, I'd like you to help lead it. Your grandfather's legacy deserves to continue." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Eduardo would be so proud. Not of the foundation, though that's beautiful, but of how his work brought people together. That's what he always believed medicine should do. They toasted to Eduardo, to Catherine, to second chances and unlikely friendships, to the transformative power of choosing kindness over convenience. 6 months later, Bellridge Pharmaceuticals launched the Santos Protocol, affordable cardiac medications based on Dr. Eduardo Santos's research. The first year exceeded all projections, with revenues up 43% and customer satisfaction at record highs. Marcus received awards for pharmaceutical innovation and ethical business practices. But the reward he treasured most sat on his desk, a framed photograph of Sophia and Diego at her 8th birthday party, surrounded by dozens of children. After Diego's friendship gave Sophia confidence, she'd wanted to return to school. Marcus enrolled her in a public school known for its inclusive programs. Now she had real friends, kids who saw her for who she was, not what she had or didn't have. Diego still visited every Saturday. He and Sophia were inseparable, already planning to attend the same college someday, already dreaming about how they'd change the world together. And Marcus had learned the most valuable lesson of his life, the one a poor boy taught a billionaire CEO. True wealth isn't measured in stock prices or bank accounts. It's measured in the lives you touch, the people you help, and the kindness you choose when no one's watching. Sometimes the most important things in life show up uninvited, wrapped in newspaper comics, carried by someone the world overlooks. All you have to do is open the door. If this story moved you, here's what I want you to do. First, smash that subscribe button so you never miss stories like this. Second, hit the like button if you believe kindness matters more than wealth. Third, drop a comment telling us about someone who showed you unexpected kindness. Let's fill this comment section with hope. And finally, Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that one small act of kindness can change everything. Thank you for watching. Remember, the door is always there. The question is whether you'll open it when someone knocks. See you in the next story.